everyone.
There are only the two of us and our neighbor Brad working on our boats in this yard.
And over in the original yard, there are 4 or 5 guys that are toughing it out this summer. It's a different place. It's very quiet and the pace is much slower.
But we do get things done on the boat, although we do take it slow as we take breaks for swimming and snorkeling.
But work is progressing here on the boat. As Lee continues to map cable and wire runs, he occasionally comes across interesting wiring issues. On the switch for the manual bilge override, he encountered burned up wiring, which had been cut but never removed. If a proper fuse had been installed, it would have blown and these wires would not have burned. To avoid just such a problem between the starter and the starter battery, Lee has installed a starter battery fuse.
So now I'm installing a new bus bar further away from the negative, and will have a cover on it protecting it. It keeps me from when I'm working on the positive or the negative shorting out between the two. This is the positive bus bar. I'm going to take off. This is a cable, so supposedly a positive cable between the battery selector switch and the bus bar. It's black. At least he had a red cover to it, so you knew it was positive. But there's a few problems with it. This is the one that has cracks in the insulation.
So another one, huh?
Yeah, this is the worst one. There actually are some places where it goes down to the down to the copper itself. So we're going to replace this, and we'll do that now. And it was taped up. There's some issues, but let's go ahead and...
So it seems like every cable you've taken off so far has had that problem.
No, just these that were not oil resistant. The oil resistant ones don't seem to have that problem. But the ones that were not oil resistant seem to have that issue.
Oh, okay. The ones that were labeled welding wire?
Yeah, and it's welding wires are good cables, nice and flexible. A lot of strands in them. Another thing that has happened is you see there's a lot of excess cable there beyond the thing. They should only be making about 5/16 or so. And like in this case, I can take this. Now this will be a longer one, but that's how long I should make it based on the terminal.
Okay. So just enough wire
to go fully
fit
in there.
Inside
yes.
the
this
terminal.
one will be longer because the terminal is longer. But
and those look like garden pruners.
yes, I've been going to a site that has given me some good information. It's marinehowto.com, or maybe it's howtomarine.com. And he said that though they weren't the best, they were good enough and they were cheap enough that when he would drop them overboard, he didn't cry. But as long as you're careful and don't cut the cable itself on these big cables, it does a good job. Cut the wires, I'm sorry. And then on these big ones, it does a pretty good job. Just have to get it off. There we go. Let's see if I made it too long. So that's how it should fit.
Wow, perfect.
Okay, now we're going to have to crimp it. And this one takes 2 crimps, there and there. we'll use our crimper here.
So that's what the black marks
Right.
signify?
So we'll run 2 crimps, one right around that area, one right around that area there. Okay, I have to change the dies to deal with the different size of
Oh, looks really easy to change.
not bad on this one. These aren't sharp. They're flat and they squeeze at all 4 sides at the same time of the terminal, so it squeezes them together and should compress that against all the wires.
Are these expensive?
Yeah, that is. But
Like
it's
how much?
a couple hundred.
Oh. You didn't tell me that.
No, I didn't.
Those look like bolt cutters.
Maybe just about. Okay, I'll have to turn it 90 degrees.
Wait, just a minute. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Now, now we're going to label it. As you see, I've been labeling the other wires. Most of them are just temporary labels. But as I do this, this one's going to be a permanent label. So positive bus to the battery switch. Unfortunately, I don't have the shrink wrap tubing label that can go this big. I'll do a little different. Okay, well, that type of label won't stay on, I don't think, very well. I've got a piece of clear shrink wrap tubing that'll go over that and secure it in place. So now I've insulated the terminal itself. I've protected the end of the cable where we met if any stray wires were out, and I've got my label on it.
Oh, okay. I see you have another one down there.
Yeah, this one I've already done. It was the one to the windlass.
Oh, okay.
You know, I put the plastic over that. I've got the label on it, put the plastic over it. Now this one here, the one to the alternator, that's where you can see where the extra cable is. And they use...
Oh, okay. It should have been cut shorter, huh?
Yes. And they use a different type of crimper. It's a pin type crimper versus the type I do that actually shrinks all around it. It just shrinks on kind of one side and pulls it down. So we're going to cut that off.
So what's better?
I think this kind, and they're a little more expensive. You can see the metal is thicker, heavier duty, and I do crimp more on it. On the I think there's better pressure on all sides of the wire instead of on just pieces of the wire. So again, we're going to, in this case, I'm going to use this as the cutter.
You're going to cut all the way through the cable
Yep.
with the garden shears, huh?
They can cut a tree, they can cut this, right? So I've got that stripped. I want to get a label on it. So this time I'm using the diamond labeler. What I'm going to do now is do a label on a piece of shrink wrap tubing itself, but I didn't have anything big enough to go over these bigger tubes. Okay, didn't have the right size then, so this one is a 3/4 inch heat shrink tube. It's not 3/4 inch diameter, it's just the half the circumference is 3/4 inch. Okay.
So is this the largest size this type of labeler can do?
This one, there's another Dymo labeler that can do up to 1 inch. But I didn't get it because that labeler, though not much more expensive, it was only about $20 more expensive, was a lot bigger and heavier. And on a sailboat, we have an issue with size and weight. This the red Anchor shrink tubing has a glue inside of it, and so what I want it to do is I want the glue to the sealant to get inside where the wires are, so hopefully keep any corrosion from occurring. And then at the same time we'll shrink this, which will have the name of it. So let's get them both going here. And we've also now put on the shrink wrap tubing for the label. It should be done.
You're using Anchor wire?
Yeah, it's one of the best. I think it's one of the best, and it's easy to get a hold of. There are a couple others that are just about as good, but it's easy for me to get a hold of the Anchor. So I still have to follow out what these wires are, but as you can see, there's a lot less wires in there than there were before, and a lot less clutter in there. So I'll find out what these are. I think these will all be pulled. I just have to take them all back and find out.
Okay, and then you'll be moving those wires from the original bus bar
over to there,
the new bus bar.
Yeah.
Lee moved as many of the cables and wires as he could, and I used the last of our bilge paint to brighten up the compartment. After all this work, we were ready for a break, and so was our neighbor Brad. At Brad's suggestion, we spent a day snorkeling just north of San Carlos. The best snorkeling we found was at the islands on the north side of the Sagi Peso Bar. While not the same as snorkeling in the British Virgin Islands, it was satisfying. After several hours of snorkeling and feeling all tired and happy, we headed to La Manga Fish Camp for a late afternoon fish dinner. What's on the horizon? Tomorrow I take the Tufesa bus north to Colton, California, where my sisters and I will celebrate with my dad his 93rd birthday. I'll take advantage of high-speed internet to upload this video and, of course, bring back more supplies. In the next video, we'll share what else has been happening here at the boat. So until then,